Since it was built in the early 1960s, the TWA terminal has stood as a beautiful relic of aviation past. But following the modernization of JFK Airport and the collapse of the company which built it, the terminal sat vacant and largely abandoned. That was until it was turned into a hotel, a heavily themed one all around its early period outfittings. Already a very cool concept, but not one without criticism, especially considering the price. So let's check into this special hotel and see if it's worth the money. So this hotel, of course, has a very storied history, all the way back to the mid-1950s, when the US mega airline, Trans World Airways, had planned to build their own terminal at the then-known Idlewild Airport, now JFK. TWA wanted their terminal to be something striking and special, so they hired Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen, a well-known mid-century architect who set out to craft a symbolic and beautiful terminal, known as a headhouse. The TWA Flight Center, as it was called, opened in 1962, introducing several novel features in airport design, and with its striking architecture, the headhouse was a thing of beauty, sporting peak 1960s mid-century design, the one which Eero Saarinen would never live to fully see open. As years passed, the terminal would see various alterations to meet the growing demand of passengers, as well as the size and number of aircraft. Through the next few decades, the terminal would continue to operate, though by the 1990s, it had begun to visibly deteriorate, as did the financial condition of TWA itself. There were even talks of demolishing the building, though the commitment to building Terminal 5 would save the structure. Ultimately, TWA would declare bankruptcy and dissolve completely after merging with American Airlines. The latter corporation would continue to operate out of the flight center through late 2001. But then, the terminal would just be left there. Preservationists fought to keep the structure, while the governing bodies which oversaw the airport found it to be functionally out of date, which it unfortunately was. As a result, the terminal would sit abandoned and disused for years to come, only seeing brief uses as a filming location and for special events. Despite receiving historic building status in 2005, the building was still disused and deteriorating away. But in 2015, a lifeline was thrown its way. JetBlue, which now had control over the structure, announced they had entered into an agreement with hotel operator MCR Hotels. They would commit to spend $230 million to not only build 2 modern lodging towers flanking it, but also commit to a complete restoration of the original headhouse to its original 1960s fittings. So after 4 years, the TWA Hotel would open in spring of 2019 with a ton of buzz and a whole lot of interest from those into architecture, history, and aviation. I'm personally into all of those, so this hotel has been on my radar ever since. And with decently good reviews, I was eager to stay there. Flying into JFK for my trip aboard the Queen Mary 2 was the perfect excuse to stay there. So, let's go check in. We got a deluxe king with runway view room. And while this category type cost quite a considerable amount more than just a normal standard room, when we first arrived, I was kind of surprised on how small it was. Perhaps I was slightly misled by the marketing photos for this room type, but I do understand why it is the way it is. MCR hotels could really only do so much with the property to make it commercially viable. The structure was obviously not designed as a hotel, and with strict land limitations as well as height limitations around the central terminal building, they needed to fit a certain number of hotel rooms to make it economically viable. They would need to fit a certain number of hotel rooms to make the hotel profitable, all within a very small footprint. All of those strict limitations meant that in order to pack as many rooms into the hotel as possible, the rooms themselves needed to be pretty small. Our room is no exception, as it is on the tighter side, and it does come with some sacrifices. A notable omission here is really any storage. There is a very tight closet that you can hang only a few items in, a small bar area with no complimentary water provided, and a mini fridge. While there isn't much here in the entryway, it all does look very nice. In fact, I really like the room's overall design aesthetic. It obviously invokes a mid-century modern theme, and I think it all looks really tasteful and for the most part, really well designed. The materials, the lighting, the textures, it all looks really good. Now the main bedroom area is pretty unique. Unlike a normal hotel configuration, the king-size bed is placed in the middle of the room, facing towards the windows. Its headboard also acts as a desk, Now the bed itself is nice. It has comfortable enough linens and a nice mattress. The side tables also feature plug sockets, with one even featuring a wireless charging pad, which is nice. The bathroom is said to have been inspired by Hollywood, with its large light bulb lined mirror. I'm not a huge fan of the European-style half-glass shower, but it was all functional, I guess, and honestly not very noteworthy. What is, however, are all the unique touches and small details. For example, I love the unique branded items in the room, from the glasses to the stationery to the many pencils on offer. I love the vintage rotary phone that does work, as well as the beautiful and tactile Switch hardware. It's all very nice and an overall well-rounded room, especially for this category of hotel. It could have easily been very generic, and they didn't go that route, which I really appreciate. That being said, there are some problems here. Space is again something that is in short supply here, and with our large bags, it was pretty difficult to spread out. While that sort of thing is just a fact of life with the logistics of this hotel, the desk trash system is certainly within their control. Okay, I really don't get this at all. Apparently they want you to place all of your trash on this little pad on the desk, all in an effort to go green? First of all, there's a trash bin in the bathroom, so there's that. But also, if you're ordering food and eating it on the desk, or really just doing anything on the desk, there's certainly a lingering thought that you have to ask yourself on whether or not this desk has really been cleaned all that well since the last guest deposited whatever vile trash they had piled here. Not to mention that it's on the corner closest to the main thoroughway of the room, making it very visible at all times. It's a truly bizarre decision to force guests to sleep with their trash next to their head, instead of just having a bagless garbage and recycling system, which is essentially the same concept. To make matters even worse, I did find that this room wasn't exactly the cleanest. There were switches in the bathroom which were pretty grimy, while others had some very obvious places that haven't been cleaned in a while. The room was also pretty roughed up in areas, with almost all of the furniture showing some wear and tear. Honestly, nothing too bad for a 4-star hotel, but you also have to remember that this property isn't that old, and at this particular price point, I would expect better. Now truly much of this can be forgiven by the best part of this room, which is the view. We were located in the Hughes wing, and because we were given a higher floor, I think thanks to the deluxe room category, we had incredible views over the Terminal 4 and 5 apron. The views over the Terminal 4 gates were particularly amazing, as those gates can accommodate the larger international aircraft, meaning we could comfortably watch from our bed massive A380s pushing back and taxiing away. In my opinion, this is the much better view. By comparison, the Saarinen wing mostly has views over Terminal 5, which is still cool, but I much prefer this side. So if you care about that, ask the front desk for this particular wing. Really, watching the whole airport in a flurry of activity was such a cool experience, and we continued to do so through the night. As someone who really loves aviation, this is by far the greatest hotel room I could ever conceive for something like this. And if you're worried about sound, thankfully these floor-to-ceiling windows are nearly 5 inches thick, with acoustics in mind. So they're tuned to block out the noise of jet engines, and that makes the room really quiet. Now the real star of the show is when you head downstairs to the main lobby, which is actually the stunning piece of architecture that once used to be the TWA Flight Center. With the restoration's fine attention to detail, this truly is a fantastic space. You'll find most of the hotel's amenities from the check-in area and the food hall, now taking the place of where the airline check-in desks and baggage drop-offs used to be, to a full fitness area, a gift shop with really great branded merchandise, a photo area with themed rooms, and the iconic sunken lounge bar. Upstairs on the mezzanine level is the hotel's main restaurant, the Paris Cafe, another bar, and a lovely little museum of former TWA flight crew uniforms. These are all surrounded by serene lounging areas with more historical information. The whole flight center is a work of art though. Its curved lines, its enormous windows, and the many unique touches around. It all really brings together a uniquely 60s experience that I've never seen before. Scattered around the property are authentic aviation-related artifacts as well as era-appropriate ones, like the various cars parked out front, as well as the charming BMW Isetta inside. The center model shows you how this terminal used to be designed, and gives you an idea of the layout of the landscape. The sunken lounge really encapsulates the whole vibe in here, with its bold red seats to the constantly changing split flap arrival and departure board. From the daytime to the evening, it's just always a pleasant, good vibe. And as you sit here and look around at all the details, you begin to notice everything from the unique penny tiling throughout to the signage. It's all just so atmospheric. But the already fantastic amenities don't stop here. Aside from a rather expansive convention center, the TWA Hotel also has a rather famous infinity pool and observation deck on top of the Hughes Wing. Their year-round rooftop pool is pretty impressive, perhaps the only place where you can swim right next to an Emirates A380. Aside from the other outdoor seating, you'll also find the pool bar here, which during our winter stay had been converted to a charming chalet-themed bar, which I thought was very cute. Now, as you could probably imagine, this pool during the warmer months does get pretty busy, and the TWA Hotel does capitalize on it. Between May 1st and November 1st, you are required to make a pool reservation after 10:45 a.m., and even if you are a hotel guest, you have to pay a cover charge of $25 per adult. If you're a non-hotel guest, you are then required to pay $50 per person. You're also only given an hour and 45 minutes per reservation. And look, I get this area gets busy, but that's pretty ridiculous. It's a blatant money grab, and if they really wanted to cut down on the overall crowds, then maybe don't offer it to non-hotel guests. At least during the winter months, you don't need to pay or make a reservation. But either way, it is pretty disappointing to see that. Down below, back at the lobby building, you might have noticed the aircraft outside the massive windows beyond the sunken lounge. That's Connie, one of 4 remaining Lockheed Constellation airplanes of this particular model in the world. And this one, dressed in the classic TWA livery, is actually a cocktail bar. It originally flew for TWA in 1958 until being converted to a freighter and trading various hands through the rest of the century. She was ultimately sold to the hotel and transported here after a full restoration. And seeing the aircraft in person, really given full reins to explore it on the ground, is a really cool experience. Even better though is boarding it and sipping drinks in a surprisingly spacious cabin. It's such a cool experience, and while drink prices aren't all that cheap, the experience is definitely worth it. What comparatively isn't, however, is the Paris Cafe. You always yell at me to try the in-house restaurant, so I did. And guess what? It was overpriced and not all that great. So checkmate, viewers. Yeah, I was actually really disappointed with our meal here. My burger was just fine, and Emmy's chunky and dry cacio e pepe was not great. It also doesn't help that my burger was $32, while Emmy's cacio e pepe was $34. Yes, the atmosphere was very nice, but those are borderline offensive prices. Speaking of prices though, let's take a look at how much our room was. For one night in a deluxe runway view room, it was a very hefty $538 with tax. That is a lot of money. At that price point, it's a little hard to justify all the greatness that comes with it. But of course, our room is not a standard one, and if you just want a standard room, likely one with no view, but a similar layout to ours, well, they can start at around $309 with tax. This is while the various guaranteed view rooms increase that price slightly. The cheapest deluxe king with runway view that I could find is $417, while an executive suite is $426. The presidential suites come in at $918 for a TWA view room, and for just shy of $1,000, we have the Howard Hughes presidential suite with runway view. These are all priced as advanced purchase rooms that cannot be refunded. Of course, there are also upcharge add-ons like selecting early check-in between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. for $25, or late checkout by 2 p.m. for $50. While these are mostly just blatant cash grabs, I have to admit that the value proposition here I honestly don't think is that bad when put into context. TWA is the only hotel connected to JFK, and the next nearest hotels are a decent drive, all of which are really not at the same level as this one. Really, there are no close comparables to this hotel because it is so unique. When you think of an airport hotel, you typically think of a painfully generic Hyatt or Sheraton, like this one that I stayed in the night prior. They're supposed to just get the job done and maybe provide a little niceties for the business crowd. The only truly nice airport hotel in North America that I can think of is the Fairmont Vancouver Airport. But nothing comes close to the unique experience and historical landmark this hotel is for architecture and aviation. There's just nothing else like it, and that compounded by the fact that it's the only on-site hotel for JFK, I mean, it kinda does justify the pricing. But let's actually break it down and give it a score. I call my scoring system Jake's Is It Any Good score, and it's based on 5 categories, each out of 10, for a potential perfect score of 50 out of 50. We'll start with the location, and this is an easy one. You're staying here because it's an airport hotel, and with its direct connection to Terminal 5 and a short tram ride away from the rest of the facility, it's an easy 10 out of 10. Amenities are also plentiful at this category of hotel. There's all the usual suspects of a restaurant and a gym, but also a ton of luxury elements like a rooftop infinity pool, a very unique bar, plus so many historical artifacts and exhibits, though sometimes at an unnecessary upcharge. So it's a 9 out of 10. Luxury/quality is also a really solid category here, with pretty well designed rooms, great fittings, and nice touches, all of which extend out to the rest of the hotel. Our room, however, was showing some wear and tear, more so than I would expect for this price point and age, and I really don't like being nickel and dimed for everything. It's still very good though, and an 8 out of 10. Service was fine. Honestly, it was a bit lower than average, especially for a 4-star hotel at this price point, so it's unfortunately a 4 out of 10. Value is tough. If you want a guaranteed runaway view room, then they make you pay for it, and it's not cheap. But again, it's one of a kind, and for both its uniqueness and the convenience, it does soften the sticker shock. I think if you have an inherent interest in aviation, the value proposition goes way up. While a standard room for those who don't really care about watching big airplanes go whoosh will probably have to grapple with the high cost per night. For me though, personally, it's a 7 out of 10. That brings the total score to 38 out of 50. Which is a pretty good score, but it does lack in some fundamental ways. I really wish and hope that if they solve some of these problems and make it a little bit more affordable, this can truly become a world-class hotel, something to be modeled by any other airport hotel going forward. So regardless of some of the lack of maintenance and cleaning problems, along with some of the slightly egregious pricing in both add-ons and the main restaurant, I really enjoyed my stay here. How could I not? I spent so much time researching TWA when I made my video about it on the main channel years ago, and to actually walk inside the once abandoned flight center and tour it as it once was in the glory days of air travel, it was just something you can't replicate. While our room wasn't perfect, I thought the views were so unbelievably cool, and I was entertained for hours just watching the normal day-to-day operations of JFK. It's a stay that I genuinely won't forget, and if anything in this video looked interesting to you, I would at the very least highly recommend stopping by and taking a look at it all. And if you're enthusiastic enough, then I would recommend a stay here. Though if you're on a budget and don't necessarily care about staying on site or care about anything in this video, I would probably just say go to a nearby hotel and take the shuttle. Now remember, the whole reason I flew into JFK and New York as a whole was to board the Queen Mary 2 ocean liner for my trip across the Atlantic. I made a whole video on it if you're interested, which is out on the channel right now. Plus I have so much more planned for the future, so if you haven't yet, please do subscribe. Until next time, my name is Jake, and thank you very much for watching.